Okay.
Thanks for coming, everyone. Welcome tonight to Immigrant Takes Alberta Meetup Group. We're just a bunch of people that love hanging out and talking about tech stuff, and it's so it's really a safe place. It's designed to be a safe place for explorers, for those who are just wondering if there is a place, if there's a belonging for them in tech, and especially for new Canadians, because already you're kind of disadvantaged in terms of networking and connection. And even those who are not new sometimes find trouble finding their place in tech. Now, even more so when you're a new Canadian, you're new to the environment. And there's also this perception people get about tech, like it's for the geeky young guy, you know. And we're just trying to demystify that, to say that tech is gradually no longer a sector. It's more of the way we do work, the way we do life. So the earlier we all get comfortable with it, the better. And this meetup group was created to be that safe place where people can ask their dumb questions, the ones they might be too embarrassed to ask elsewhere. Because here, everybody's just learning and hanging out. Yeah, so that's the whole point of this group, and to be that bridge between new Canadians and the larger Alberta innovation ecosystem. Because there's a lot of stuff out there, lots of information, lots of resources, but sometimes it could be hard to find them. And so it's great to have that space where you can explore and you can get some direction and have people point you to where you can find information. So we've had so many connections happen through this group that people just, the serendipity of when there's collaboration and everybody's you're just out here to give what you have, and you don't know who's going to help, you don't know when it's going to come back to you to help you. So that's the kind of culture we're trying to encourage. And really, my hope for this meetup group is that we will one day self-destruct, in the sense that we'll get to a point where we won't need to have a group for immigrant professionals to feel safe, because they will feel safe everywhere. So that's the long-term goal here. So yeah, and tonight we have our guests, which many of us know, many of us on this call know her already. And Margo Purcell, she's like a pillar in the Alberta innovation ecosystem, yes.
Oh my goodness.
In terms of building the community, and she's the CEO. Is it co-CEO now?
CEO and a co-founder.
Co-founder of InceptionU. And at the same, InceptionU is another place where people that want to pivot to tech, you already have your skills and you're trying to transfer them into a tech career. So at InceptionU, they do full stack developer program and full stack designer, right?
That's right. Yep,
So
we just started that.
I'm sure we'll get to the point where Margo can tell us a little bit more about that. So without further ado, I would just invite Margo to the stand.
For having me.
Yeah, it's our pleasure. So this is a casual chat, and please feel free to even maybe unmute yourself. But if we get larger, maybe just raise your hand or type a question in the chat, or just say you have a question in the chat, and then we will let you. So it's a casual chat. We're just hanging out. So can we meet you, Margo? Who's Margo? What can't we find on your LinkedIn profile?
You might still be able to find it on the LinkedIn profile. I am a recovering insurance broker. right? So I've actually lived career transition a few times. And you know, I graduated, I started with as a theater major. I graduated with a poli-sci degree because I just, how do I pick one topic? That was really hard to narrow in on one degree. And then my first full-time job was in the credit union system, and I ended up as an insurance broker, and became the trainer and educator with the insurance company. And I actually really, really loved insurance. If you're good with numbers, math is probably something you really enjoy. And it was similar for me with insurance. It clicked, it made sense. I was helping people pass their broker's exams before I had my broker's license. Like I loved it. And I moved to Calgary with the company, became the trainer and educator with the company, and over time just found I don't think this is where I belong for my career. I didn't know what else I wanted to do. So I decided, well, if I go on mat leave, that'll give me time off to figure out what I want to do. And that is not why I had children. I do love my children. I decided that was a really great way to kind of take a little bit of a step back from this career path that was being laid out before me, when I wasn't sure exactly what I wanted to do. And then I had some life events that just made me reevaluate, where am I going? And that led me to some deep career exploration for myself. And what I realized is I love helping people figure out what they're meant to do. I love helping people figure out, what do I do well? How do I do that even better? How and where else can I take that so that I'm not stuck in any one career path? And that led to us eventually starting up InceptionU. What we started seeing with, by the way, I had my own consulting company for 16 years. And I did work on communication effectiveness, team effectiveness, leadership, and career, and helping. I used to say short form, I help people get along, because there is a cost to companies when people are not able to have effective relationships, when they cannot collaborate well, when there are challenges in the communication. It actually costs money. And so these soft skills that everyone, and I laugh, like we call them soft skills, but if they're so soft, why are they so hard to learn?
Yes, exactly. Which is,
and that's where people would, you know, they would think that they're just, oh yeah, this thing we'll do as a team build. And I was able to show companies, look, here's where it costs you when you don't have these things. You know, when I have to send 4 emails about a topic, and one of us ends up producing something that I thought you were telling me, but it's not actually what you were looking for. There were the 4 emails that you sent instead of being productive on other things in your time. And then we didn't get the outcomes we were looking for simply because I didn't understand. Like, there are hard, tangible dollar costs to not doing this well. And the great thing is, there are skills that can be built. We can build them. We can do them in a way that works for us and not trying to be someone we're not. And that's what InceptionU was born from, is seeing that, yes, the hard skills, so technical skills, digital skills, you know, what you actually do, they're easier for us to talk about. They're easier for us to understand what I need to do to be successful. The soft skills or essential skills wrap around that.
Yes,
and it's
absolutely
how you do what you do. And we saw, especially if you look at World Economic Forum, does every 5 years, they release jobs of the skills for the future, for their jobs of the future report. And since 2015, the number of technical hard skills have been dropping, so that this top 10 skills for 2025, 2 of them are technical. 8 of them are what people would call soft skills.
Yeah, and that's why I wanted to, you know, mention this, that for immigrant professionals, most immigrant professionals, we are, I mean, before Canada let us in under the economic class, we have at least a first degree. A lot of people have seconds, even thirds.
Oh yeah.
So highly skilled technically. And the great thing about technical skills is they're universal. And in engineering is the same in Nigeria as it is in Canada. Like, there's nothing different about the basic rules. So you can compete favorably on the basis of technical skills. Then I have had conversation with immigrant professionals that will say they went for an interview and they were uncomfortable with all the small talk. So they're like, when are we starting the interview? because that's where the strength is. They want to talk about all the technical stuff. They want to impress that way, because it's a little uncomfortable when you don't understand the concept, because most of small talk comes from shared values, shared experiences, right? That's why it's called small. So this stuff is not always easy. It doesn't always come natural. And it used to be so much that soft skills are the mushy stuff, the fuzzy stuff that they're just like sprinkles on top, cherry on top of your ice cream. But now they are becoming the big deal. Yeah. Why? What changed? What's the big deal with soft skills?
Well, some of what we see as the big deal with soft skills is that the hard skills keep changing really, really quickly. And so where it used to be that the hard skills were the things that were consistent, and the soft skills just were kind of, like you say, sprinkling on top of the sundae. The soft skills, which are the super transferable skills, because you can take them to any technical skill you learn. So those soft skills become the things that are becoming more consistent across all of the different sectors and all of the different digital assets and skills that you build. And being able to form relationships, being able to tell your story, being able to share the value you will bring to that team, that organization, becomes essential for them to be able to then hear all the technical capability that you bring. I've seen phenomenal technical superstars who cannot work with other people. They cause such friction and challenge in the team that eventually, even if they're technically incredibly capable, it has a high cost for that person to be on the team. And it's a really difficult way to find out that you need better soft skills by getting a pink slip that lets you know you don't fit. And so that's where I see that value. And especially if we look at tech skills as well, it used to be, let's say software development, it used to be you were alone in your cubicle and you just worked away and everybody had their part, Well, that's not what software development is anymore. It's not an individual sport. It is now a team sport. Paired programming, mod programming, being able to collaborate with a wide variety of people. That's actually where our creativity and innovation comes from, is by hearing other people's ideas. And it's also where we make better products, because it's not one person. And so being able to work with a variety of people to communicate your ideas and your understanding and your process and understand what they're communicating back to you becomes absolutely essential in building great things and in building great companies.
Right. Can you just maybe give some examples? Soft skills, they're used interchangeably with essential skills or enabling competencies, and sometimes it could be there's a lot of blur there. So if you could just maybe give some concrete examples of what we should be building in terms of essential skills. Yeah.
So for example, if we talk about communication skills, will you communicate in a written way? You communicate verbally. We communicate non-verbally. And so there are also, with communication skills, there are also different cultural layers, and Canada's got its own little spin on things, right? And so if you say certain things in Canada compared to saying it elsewhere, it may be interpreted differently. And so understanding some of those, that's a whole cultural level. And there's some amazing people who do amazing work on understanding the Canadian cultural context. If we look at the communication skills that go all the way across, so I send an email to you making a request, asking you to do something. And I'm using words that we both recognize. But what you understood it to mean is different than what I understood it to mean. So you go off and you get to work on that request of mine, and you bring it back to me. And I say, that's not what I asked for. And you say, yes, it is. I said, no, I meant this. And so without being, one of the soft skills we can learn in communication is, rather than taking just the email at face value, is to get curious and build the ability to ask questions, to clarify, to say, okay, I got this request from you. I want to make sure I understand it. This is my understanding of what you're looking for. Have I got it right? Like there's a soft skill of asking a question and clarifying so that you don't go ahead and start spending all sorts of time and energy on something only to produce an outcome that wasn't what was sought, what they were asking. And it saves you time and energy. It also saves the other person time and energy. Plus, when we get really good at the soft skill of clarifying, you actually help the other person with getting clearer on their own thinking. You know, it's a really great, valuable piece that you can bring to someone to go and be able to do that. So that would be an example of a soft skill that doesn't seem like much at first. And look at how, you know, you're saving emails back and forth, you're saving frustration, you're saving time and energies being spent where it shouldn't be spent, and you're helping the other person even get clear on what they need. That's incredibly valuable and means that you can become this resource that people go to you. They know that if I send a request to this person, they're not going to go ahead and do something till they know they've understood what I'm looking for. Huge value. Does that give us concrete enough example?
Yes, absolutely. That's an example of how soft skills helps with interrelationships in the workplace or elsewhere. And there's also the aspect of the soft skill that helps with individual mindsets. I read a report that said 50% of jobs of people employed today in the next couple years need to reskill or upskill. Now, it takes a certain kind of mindset to think that, oh, even though I am a PhD mechanical engineering, taking that boot camp for 3 months will open a channel in my brain that I've never activated. So what kind of essential skills do we need to stay relevant, to stay future fit, like you like to say it?
We talk about 3 key things. One is, are you curious? So how do you foster your own innate curiosity? We were all born curious. If you have ever watched young children, they will spend more time playing with the box that the toy came in than playing with the toy itself because they're innately curious. They'll turn toys over, take them apart, look at, and so it's because we're born little scientists, really. And so how do we foster that curiosity back in ourselves? And you can do that around the technical skills too, but there's something that's a little less technical that you can wrap around technology. So you've learned, let's say, machine learning. And then you start asking really great questions and saying, well, I'm curious about this and I'm curious about that. How are you using it? And that's, you know, that's where you can actually start fostering dialogue, relationship, and conversation. That means that they see your interest and they see that curiosity, piques their curiosity. What it would be like to have this person on our team? And so always stay curious. That's a mindset any of us can have. Another one that we like to talk about is lifelong learning, especially if you're going to go into the field of technology. It's not going to end when the course is done. You will be forever learning. In our program, we have facilitators who are from industry. They've been software developers for 25 plus years. There's not a single client project they have ever had where they haven't had to learn at least one new technical thing to be able to deliver on that project. So this idea that, well, school is school and that's where I learn and then I get to go work and do it. One of the mindsets to really adopt is that lifelong learning and re-foster that hunger. Because again, if we look at babies, they have brains that are just sponges. They just absorb things all the time. We are built to learn. And so how do you kindle that mindset of I will always be learning and I love learning so that that keeps you consistently relevant throughout your technical career, whatever that technical is. The last one that we talk about a lot is open mindset. And I will say that in some of our more, the schooling that I took, you're given, this is what the program is, and here's what you're going to be doing on this day, this day, this day. And if you learn this, then you can do that. And it's kind of a straight line for us. With an open mindset, it's being open to whatever might emerge, to know that we can't possibly know everything, that we can anticipate as much as we can. There's going to be stuff that comes out that we didn't anticipate? And how am I open to what's happening so that I can respond to it effectively, whatever the technical situation is? So those are the 3 key mindsets that we say to people. There's a lot out there about a growth mindset versus a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset, like there's right and wrong, there's good and bad, and there is a way of doing it, and that's it. And with having a growth mindset, it's being open to, I don't know everything, and that's okay. I don't know yet, is what we like to say in our program. And so if I know that there will be things I don't know yet, then I can have that growth mindset that I know I'm capable. I know I've got what it takes to learn it, even if I don't know it yet. And then again, that's also being open to different ways of approaching it, which is tied to collaboration, which is tied to communication. That if I'm working with a group of people and I know it's my way and it's only my way, it is much more difficult for others to collaborate with us. So that's part of that mindset shift to help us be able to work with a wide variety of people, whether they're clients or whether they're colleagues.
And we do know also that having an environment where there's psychological safety kind of strengthens curiosity. Because if you always ask questions and you're shut down, that kind of dampens your spirits, right? And that's one wonderful thing we have here in Alberta through the Rainforest Alberta, through there's a social contract that encourages people to come with the attitude of I want to help. And I see so many organizations living up to those values, which is one of the things we're doing here, because we want curious people to be able to ask their dumb questions and not feel threatened in any way. So for just speaking out loud to everybody here now, if you are the type that feels, oh, I don't want to say something that won't make sense, this community, the Alberta innovation ecosystem is built just for that, to foster your curiosity, to look up somebody on LinkedIn and reach out to them and ask your questions. So if you have that, don't let that make you laid back. There's a lot of support in the community. And, I was saying earlier that soft skills used to be the mushy stuff. Like the hardcore engineers will say, yeah, I don't need that, I'm an engineer, And even it helps us with relating with each other and all of that. But even when it comes to hardcore product development, developing a product through the design process doesn't start from logic, right? It doesn't start from, oh, what's the next big problem to solve? It actually starts with empathy, right? Which is a major soft skill, essential skill as well, that we need to be able to see life through other people's lens to even make any impact at all. I know that's also a big part of what you teach. Do you want to speak a little bit about empathy and how it's key to problem solving?
Yeah, and when it comes to that, so there's a great book, by the way, by Paul Bloom, like the flower bloom. And he actually has a book called Against Empathy, The Case for Rational Compassion. And I find that that's one that people can really embrace too. And so he talks about rational compassion the same way I do about empathy. We can go so far in empathy as I'm feeling what you're feeling. Well, now I'm actually taking away from you and your perspective. If instead I'm putting myself in your shoes and I'm seeing empathy that way, and I'm working to understand what do you need as well as what do you want. And I've really been able to see where you're coming from. I'm going to be able to build a solution alongside you that actually addresses those needs, because I was able to put myself in your shoes, not building what I think you need. And we can look at how many apps are on the App Store or on Google Play, millions upon millions that never ever get used. Because what we tend to do is we have a bias as human beings. We have a bias for action. I want to be doing something. And that means we tend towards problem solving, often before we've truly understood the problem. And empathy is a key piece of truly understanding the problem, which is also, again, being curious and asking questions and trying to understand their perspective. And we can ask really great questions. There's even better, more skilled ways of asking questions than others. If I ask a question, I say, well, I mean, do you like ice cream? You could say yes or no. Well, there's no conversation to be had. If I say, Woonmi, what's your favorite dessert? Right?
Yeah.
Maybe you say ice cream, maybe you say something else. Oh, tell me more about that. Now we're in a conversation. It's the same thing when we're trying to understand the problem. I could ask a question that humans are very, very wise. We have good spidey senses. And if I ask a question that is pretty much telling you, here's the answer I want, humans are really good at knowing, I know what you want to hear, so I'll give you that answer.
Right.
And so we can build skills at asking better questions. And we talk a lot about problem setting before problem solving. Fall in love with the problem before you fall in love with the solution. So you don't go ahead and build something that actually might fall short of what the other person needs. And being able to empathize with them and want to understand where they're coming from, what their experience is, and what their perspective is really key to being able to do that.
Right. If anyone has any question, please let us know. So let's say we have people who are more introverted than others. Some are, and so what about someone that's thinking, well, all this communication stuff, it's not my strength. Like maybe I do best when I type. I don't really want to talk to anyone. Must I, playing the devil's advocate here, must I become something I'm not just to fit into a soft skill? What do you say to that?
Well, I'll be straight up that North America has a bias for extroversion. You know, I don't have any research, like there's not research Margo's conducted to figure that out. This is anecdotal, and I've asked over and over again, what would you say our bias is? And you can look at the words that are used to describe someone who's introverted compared to someone who's extroverted. I'm a strong believer in be true to who you are. And so when I watch someone who is, when I observe someone who is more towards the introversion preference, what do you tend to do really, really well? You know, what are some of the things you already do well? My observations is tend to be really great listeners, tend to be really great at asking questions. So rather than going to a networking event thinking, I've got to talk, I've got to speak, what would it look like to bring your strength of walking in, asking really great questions of others, and then listening to them? People will not forget how you made them feel when you're asking them questions about themselves and truly listening to them. And they walk away going, that person was great. That person was so interesting. You probably hardly said anything. You let them do all the talking. So if that's something you're uncomfortable with, then use that strength of listening and asking really powerful questions. And then you let them do all the talking. They'll walk away thinking you're a masterful networker and that you're just a great conversationalist. All you did was say yes and nod. Not interesting. Fantastic. And it has you in a position of strength rather than trying to be someone you're not. Does that make sense?
Yes. So, but where do you draw the line between the fixed mindset, the person that says, this is who I am, take it or leave it, and the person that says, oh, I'm gonna just continue to work on myself, fix my weakness? There's a line there somewhere, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'm a big proponent of manage your weakness and build on your strengths. So, in terms of the fixed mindset of this is the way I am, I have yet to figure out how to help to work with that, because it's sometimes that like take me or leave me how I am. Fair enough. You know, and that's okay. Sometimes that mindset might have been informed by some negative experiences that, you know what, I'm being asked constantly to be someone I'm not. That doesn't tend to go well either. So I might as well just be who I am. And if you don't like it, that's the way it is. And so if that's what's going on for you, then it's finding a trusted friend, a trusted advisor, someone who can help you find a way of being in those scenarios in a way that allows you to be you. And so again, what are those strengths that you do bring? You know, and if they are technical strengths, There's nothing wrong with that. How do you wrap something around that technical strength? So ask someone, you go to a networking event and you ask someone, you come in with an article that you've read and you say, hey, I read about this. And let's say you know that it's connected with that company. Say, what are your thoughts on this? Or I saw this come out recently that intrigued me. Curious to hear your thoughts on it. Let that person talk. Now you're also going to be able to add in and around a technical subject. And yet it's not about telling someone how technical and capable you are that way. So that's some of what I'd have to say in terms of the fixed mindset. If you've really ended up finding that you've dug your heels in and around this is who I am, then seeing, is there some kind of reflection that you can do about what's that about? How is that serving me? How is that not serving me? You know, if I'm not getting the results I'm looking for, what can I change? Because we can't change other people. So what can I change within myself to get different results than what I'm getting? Does that make sense too?
And I do think also that what you expose yourself to informs a lot of who you think you are.
Yeah.
That because there's an extensive potential in the human mind, which if we don't even give it the right environment, we don't even know how much we can do, how much we can accomplish. So the encouragement is to always be in an atmosphere where you know you're learning, where you know you're exposed to things that just challenge your mindset.
Yeah.
So it's not about being who you're not, it's about being the best you, right? Like what's the most improved version of woman? So it's not like, right? Not in relation to Margo, but in relation to woman of yesterday, right? So well, I think I find that quite helpful.
And knowing you're not broken, you don't need to be fixed. We've all got things we do well. We've all got things we don't do so well. Okay. So how do you recognize? I mean, we have to be aware of the things we don't do as well. If you're not aware of it, if you are aware of it, you can manage it. If you are not aware of it, it is already managing you. And so rather than trying to fix something in yourself, looking at what are the things that I really do well? What are the things I don't do so well? And how do I use my strengths to kind of pull up the hand of the things I don't do so well without trying to put the pen in the wrong hand? You know, like I'm left-handed. Ask me to write with my right hand and it is a mess and it's exhausting and I'm so uncomfortable and I don't want anyone to see what I just did. Well, I'm going to keep the pen in my left hand. It's that I'm going to recognize when something needs something right-handed, how do I actually do that in a way that still allows me to be me?
Bumi, I saw you unmuted yourself. Did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to stress that fixed mindset concept a bit. So it's not just about networking. Having a fixed mindset can affect various aspects of what we do at work. Just to give you an example, I was privileged to be on an interview panel a while back, trying to recruit someone new for a position in the organization I worked at the time. Well, we had two really great candidates. One seemed more senior. He seemed to have more qualification than the other person. But then we asked them one question. There was a certification that he still did not have. And we asked him, okay, are you planning to have this certification? And his answer was, well, I don't plan to. I already know this stuff. I have experience in this stuff. And then we asked the other person, are you planning to gain this certification? And she said, yeah, I don't have it yet, but I plan to work on it and I plan to get it. Now, guess who we went with? The person that said she's going to be working on it and she plans to get it. And this other guy was really good, but because he had that mindset that, yeah, I already know it. He wasn't ready to shift. So you mentioned something about being a lifelong learner and all that. It ties into that. You don't want someone on your team who's just going to come in and be stagnant. You want people who are going to be learning, especially when you're in the tech environment, tech changes almost every 6 months. In some cases, 3 months. You want to keep learning and keep improving yourself. And it's a very important thing. Not having that fixed mindset that, okay, this is how I think, and I'm not going to change it. There are certain things we don't change about ourselves, but then we have to look at those areas where we need to improve and strive for that improvement.
Thank you. And even in an interview kind of situation, building on what you're saying as well, is talking about your process of how you learn.
Yeah.
Right. If we can speak to how we learn and that, well, this is what I do. And so I start by researching and you go into your process of learning, it informs them of your capability of learning and the mindset that you've got when you're presented with something you've never seen before and you don't currently know. It speaks to resilience. It speaks to adaptability. It speaks to all of those, again, those soft skills that go around the technical skills that say, this is someone we can have with us for the long term, because they're going to be able to evolve and adapt along with us and our products and whatever else we're working on.
Right. And in Bumi's example, it's not really, I want to believe it's not really about the certification itself. It's about the mindset. Because there might be reasons why you don't want to take a particular certification if you feel you've done something similar, but the mindset of, I already know it. So that's off-putting right there. But if it were to be something like, oh, I did this other course, or I read this other book, or this is the other way I am growing in that area, I'm sure that would have met the same needs. I just wanted to point that out so that people don't go on the certification spree. I don't think that's what this was about. Yeah, thank you so much, Bumi. Tucker, you have your hand up.
Hi guys, firstly, thank you so much for this. This is actually really interesting stuff. So thank you for that,
Great.
Margo. My question, if I could take you back to what you were talking about earlier on, about you may speak the same language, but certain words or expressions may be interpreted a different way. So I'm from the UK, I'm still here actually, and I'm actively trying to relocate to Canada. So whilst my role in IT is client focus, I've got quite a few experience of that here, but I'm now concerned about, right, when I make the shift, hopefully, are there any languages, any words, expressions, or even my behavior that I need to be concerned about? Where it's either a absolute red flag, where I may actually think, you know, that's quite normal for me to say X, Y, and Z, but over there it's absolutely, you don't say anything like that. Have you come across anyone like that, maybe from the UK, who has made the move and then made an absolute blunder in in like the work environment?
Luckily, Canada and the UK share a lot. So I haven't seen it as much.
Yeah, I did actually notice there is an overlap, but I won't say there's a complete 100%. There obviously are certain differences. So that's where I was thinking, oh, I wonder what that could be.
What I've noticed that is a distinction when we're working with people from the UK and people in Canada is the type of humor that's used. How the humor is used is quite different. And sometimes it can be, you can watch like a Canadian be a little off-put by it. Like, I didn't think that was because I find it a little more self-deprecating and sometimes caustic, how a Brit might talk about things. And what was the other one from, like in terms of tech, one thing you do have for tech, by the way, is when it comes to the technical language, it's pretty universal. I mean, C+ is C+, right? And JavaScript is JavaScript. It's its own language. It's called a language, right? And so there are some things that can be that you can concepts and so on, or the language piece. What I have seen, and this has been even across different countries, is sometimes the concept our understanding of the technical concept might not be the same understanding. Now, I'm part of the non-technical faculty, so I can't speak to anything specific. I might ask Jack to pipe in here if he has an example that he can think of where someone is using the same term, but has a different understanding of what that means. And I've seen that happen in around technical. I also, so ways you can navigate some of that can be, there are organizations like CRIEC in Calgary, which is the Calgary Regional Immigrant Employment Council. It pairs you up with a mentor that helps you learn the business language here in your area. Because I know of someone who was from Nigeria, HR professional, wildly successful in Nigeria, comes here, has stuff on her resume and was never getting picked up by the software.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the term that they thought she was missing, this key component that we use in HR in Canada, they just used a different word for it in Nigeria.
Right,
and when she actually got talking to her mentor, was saying, well, this, that, and the other, like, oh, you do have that. They just called it something else. So making sure that you've got the right terms and concepts. And then there's other mentoring organizations that are, like, I'd say, start reaching out to them before you're in Canada and finding out, what are the business terms? Do I understand them correctly? What are the technical terms that are really, really important? How are they used? What are some of the business processes and culture for me to be familiar with, so that when I do come in, that I'm able to make connections more meaningfully and quickly. And I don't have anything more UK specific than I know the sense of humor.
I do, actually.
Pretty different.
Oh, you do?
Oh, do you?
Yeah, so where I work now, I have two people that are from the UK. And the one thing that's a major difference in the communication style is they are very brief. Like, they go straight to the point. I appreciate that. Like, I personally appreciate that, because I have someone else that, I mean, she's so rich in vocabulary. She has a lot of words. So she'll say this same thing in like 15 different ways. I mean, it helps with understanding, but then it gets to a point you're like, I think we got a hand of that. So I mean, sometimes the guy that goes for 2-word answers comes across as caustic.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, you send an email with 3 paragraphs and then he replies with a 5-line. Like that's kind of, you'd be like, did you even read what I sent? So yeah, if you can just find the balance there. I don't know if personally you also go to, you tend to be very brief in your words, but that's what I noticed from 2 people in my organization. So it might help to flesh it out a little bit, just so people know that you cared enough, you put some thoughts into it, but not to go the other extreme.
You know, from listening to your answers, both yourself, Omni, and Margo, and I'm not sure if this is right or wrong, but my first impressions are that, I guess, to start off with, I may have to tone down almost everything, whether it's humor, just your normal chit chat, just not to offend, just to make sure I don't offend, and then slowly get to know what the environment's like, what the vibe is, because I guess even, like you said, humor in healthy space can either be really good or it can go the other way and it can really upset someone. Right, and I'm thinking I may not be able to show my true self, but that, I think that will only be in the short term until I get up to speed with what the cultures look like.
And that's where I try to consistently default to asking questions and pulling things out of them rather than telling them who I am. I try as best I can to do that, because get them talking so that they fill the conversation rather than me. And Canadians are a lot less direct than we're known to be indirect, very indirect, which is probably why we use so many words, because we're trying to dance around things. So that is one thing about us. Hopefully that was helpful.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much, guys.
You're welcome.
Tayo, you had your hand up, and after that, I'll go to Leonard. So Tayo first.
Okay, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So I'll just respond to the last speaker's question. So what I discovered when I came in, I newly came in March this year. And then my interviews, I think I had one major interview. And what I discovered is they like talking about the weather in terms of small talk. And personally, or where I come from, if you talk about the weather, it means that you're boring. You have nothing to talk about.
We are.
Yeah. So and I'm not even used to your weather yet. I don't know what happens in winter or summer or whatever. So I had to try to understand what their weather is like and what kind of conversations can come around the weather, and try to be enthusiastic about it just for their sake. So that's the number one thing that you might want to look at, especially coming from a different kind of climate.
Yeah.
Nigeria, I'm from Nigeria. Nigeria is totally different from Canada. So I can't even relate to whatever they're trying to say.
Yeah.
Then secondly, what I've discovered is I try to, do a summary of whatever they have said. So if they have danced around something and then they expect a response, I will try and do a recap to say, oh, you mean what you're trying to say is, or did I get you right? I think I got this, just to be sure we're on the same page and I don't go off tangent from what you were trying to say. Now, so I will not have this question because I'm still learning. I'm not a year yet in Canada. But what I've discovered is my tone of mails where I work now. Sometimes I'm not sure that I'm doing the right thing. Where I come from, we're really like British. When you want to send a mail, you say, dear, first name, kindly check, please go through, but I get here and I see people say, hi, whatever, hey. I want someone to approve something. I'll say, kindly review and approve. But here I see them say, could you just check and can I get an approval? So sometimes I don't know if I'm being too polite or it will seem like you're doing too much, so I'm trying to get a balance of that. So if you could, shed more light on that, I'll be glad.
Yeah, thank you. And I was going to say, if you're not sure about small talk, check the weather report. Canadian, that is our psychological safety zone. Everybody can talk about the weather. It is such a big part of our lives because it does change and it is so extreme, and it's this common thing we can just talk about. And so it's fascinating. I love that you picked up on that because gosh, we could talk about the weather forever and it's kind of silly. And sometimes it is because I don't know what else to talk about. And so that's why in those kind of scenarios, I try as best. I am an extrovert and I find networking things just make me want to projectile vomit. It takes me everything I can to build myself up to go to those things. And so then that's where I try and prepare with having read something recent. I avoid politics and religion and anything that's going to be divisive, but I'm like, okay, this is a tech meetup. So I'm going to read something about something interesting to me in tech that I can ask someone about. And then I'm going to try and listen as best I can. In terms of email, by the way, electronic communication, historically, one of the worst ways to communicate. I have never seen as many misinterpretations. I mean, we misinterpret what do people say face-to-face. By email, take out the tone of voice and the body language, wild misinterpretation. I would offer that whatever formality you use, you can say, hey, we do things a lot more formally and let me know what works for you. I tend to reply, I send all of my emails when I'm first meeting someone, I write hello, blah, 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 because I don't know. I don't want to be too familiar. And then I'll be a little more formal. If they reply to me with saying, hey, I will now reply back with hey, because I receive that as permission to reply in a less formal way. So the less I know them, the more formal I am. As I get to know them, I become more informal. I don't know if that helps out at all. I try and read how they've written and reply in kind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I think that's very good advice, because that's how you get the feel for the culture too, the organizational culture and the kind of language that is acceptable there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I was in Mauritius, and I had, because, you know, I got used in Alberta. I'm from Eastern Canada. By the way, like Ontario's culture is different than Alberta's. So when I moved here, everybody says hi to strangers on the street. I'm like, oh, I'm not used to that. And I learned how to say hi to strangers on the street. And I found it much more informal out here. So I went to Mauritius to do a residency program. And I met, and I saw a friend of mine know someone from Mauritius. I'm like, hey, can you introduce us? Like, we'll go for coffee like we would in Calgary. And it ends up being like the next to the CEO of some giant bank in Mauritius. And I'm getting these emails that were the most formal email. I didn't know how to reply. I'm like, I am not classy enough to reply to this. I don't have the language to reply to this. It was really, and I really had to learn. And I asked my friends, how do I reply to this? Because it was so different from what I did, and I didn't want to offend, and I didn't want to be so informal as to have them say she is not respectful. So yeah, it was an interesting experience.
Thank you, Margo.
Thank you.
Leonard, if you want to unmute yourself.
Could I ask a question?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Okay,
We'll come to you, Cody, after. Great.
Okay, thank
Leonard.
you. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, there. I
sorry.
wanted to touch on. I wanted to touch on what Margo mentioned about being extroverted and all that. Now, I'll admit that I'm on the spectrum, and this basically many people are on the spectrum. Contrast to many neurotypicals are usually introverted. Like nobody's business. Yet I break that stereotype. I could just talk about things all that interest me over and over and over and over and over again, and sometimes I could even sound passionate and fiery up to certain points. And sometimes I often fear that like dang, is this like to my detriment? And one of the things that I had thought of when you were specifically talking about soft skills was that like in a job interview, for example, would it be beneficial to say like right off the top, like, hey, I care, I'm caring, and all this other personality stuff, because that's what one person who I've known in my religious community had done that. And yeah. I personally have a bit of suspicion about that, because in my mind, I think, hey, who the heck cares? Like, people only say this kind of stuff just to butter them up, and it, to me, it's kind of comes off as disingenuous.
In terms of that kind of thing, I guess, Leonard, building on what you said prior to that, what I would, if I were in your position, I would offer to them, look, I can get really excited and really passionate about things. In fact, I can talk for quite a long time for things. If I'm talking a little too long, feel free to interrupt. So you're not having to say I'm this caring person. You're letting them know, though, I'm self-aware, that I can get really excited about things and talk quite a bit about it. And if it's too much, let me know. And that communicates a lot more without having to say I'm this caring person who listens well. Instead, you're telling them, I'm aware of where my energy is. I'm aware of how I express it. And if it's ever going across a little bit of a line, it's okay to tell me and to ask me to come back on track, or to ask me, can we change the topic? And then you've given them permission, and now you've started to build a relationship through that small thing. Does that make sense?
Okay, I'm just writing the note about that. So to sum it up, like I have to mention that I mentioned that I can talk about things for a long time, and that I can get really excited and passionate. If I'm stepping over the line in one way or another, like sometimes I'd even exaggerate by using hand gestures, which frankly, that's a habit that I do quite a bit. Yeah. Like if I go over the line, I'd want them to know. Yeah, that's perfect, actually.
Yeah, I do that. I know in sales situations, like I can go from creative to creative overload. And so I will say, and I know that I do that. So I will say at the beginning, if I'm in a situation where I'm working to encourage them or persuade them or something, I'll say, you know what? I'm really excited about this. And sometimes I can get a little too excited. And So if I give you too many ideas, it's okay to stop me, you know, because I'll probably go to 10 where the first 3 were probably the best. And then go, oh, because in my head, it's like, and we could do and they just go, oh my gosh, like we can't work with her. So instead of trying to rein myself in all the time and crushing that energy, I just let them know if it's too much, just tell me to stop. And they're like, okay. And we end up, and then you know what happens? I don't tend to go into too much because I've even caught myself before I started. So similar thing, Leonard, by saying that, likely you will even temper yourself simply because you articulated it.
Okay, that's perfect.
I hosted a podcast recently, and that's what my guest told me right up front. Like I tend to go on and on and on. Just feel free to interrupt and redirect. So yes, that's totally helpful.
Another example, and Cody, I'll get to you in one sec here. Another example, so a tangible example of communication skill. I am a low attention to detail person. I know that. I like big ideas. So when I go to someone that I recognize, and maybe it's an email, and in their email, they put like the email's this long and it's got all these details and I'm about to read. I'm like, oh my gosh, why didn't you just call me? You know, so, but they've communicated to me what they need by having that super detailed email. I will walk into those meetings and I will say, hey, I've got an idea. It's not fully thought through. I've got some details, probably not as many as you might need. Feel free to ask me for whatever other information you require to understand and to get on board or not. And if I don't have the information, I'll go get and come back. Now, I didn't just say, hey, here's this idea, let's go. And they think, oh my gosh, Flake, she hasn't thought it through. This is going to be a disaster. I've let them know I haven't thought it through fully. That's why I'm coming and talking to you. And any more details you need, let me know, because you're better with details. So give me the questions you need the answers to, I'll go get them. And now we've met each other's needs and I still got to be me. Does that make sense? Cody, you had a question. Thanks, Leonard.
Hi, Wumi and Margo. Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for sharing the great experience for the soft skill. Actually, I'm a petroleum engineer, and I decided to make a transition from petroleum engineer to software engineer. And actually, Jack is my close friend and introduced me to the InceptionU. Yeah, you know, actually tomorrow morning I will have the intake interview.
I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yeah, I'm very excited. You know, probably you know, like right now the petroleum engineering is a kind of a downturn, also like fluctuate. So I have actually back PhD degree, but you know sometimes it's frustrated to find a job in the oil and gas industry. So I decided to make the transition. As you mentioned, actually the soft skill is kind of a transferable skills, from different sectors to another sectors. So like my question is, as for the person, for example, me, I decided to like make a transition. Could you please provide some like advice for how to develop the soft skill in a totally different area? Or how could I use my like previous skills to a new area?
So number one, we do actually do that deep career work as well as part of the program, so you can identify not only your soft skills that are transferable, all the other skills that may be more related to technical, like project management and risk management and all those other things, so that you can see how and where else do I want to apply those. So any digital skills you add, it's not like what you have before is gone. You don't lose that knowledge in a career transition, and you don't lose that value in a career transition. We find how and where else can that be an amazing added value that, oh, and now, by the way, I've got all these digital skills. In terms of being able to build some of the soft skills as well, you know, it's been mentioned about going to things like rainforest, getting into conversations with people, building relationships, being adaptable, and trying those things out. I would say anytime you see a chance for a hackathon, you know, go to them, because at that hackathon, you're collaborating, key soft skill that is really, really important in the software industry, because you are building relationships. You're learning how to interact with and communicate with people you've never met before in and around a technical subject. You're learning how to learn, and that's building that soft skill of being able to learn as a soft skill in and of itself. And you're building experience in it that you can also point to. By the way, I was at this hackathon. Here's where we started. Here's the problem we looked at. Here's the solution we created. So there's problem setting, there's problem solving, both soft skills. And here's what we developed together, and here's how we did it. And you can walk through, and now you've got, you can demonstrate your experience with these soft skills in conjunction with the technical skills. So those are some of the things that kind of immediately come to mind. Finding other groups like Pixels and Pints. So groups that have a common interest in and around technical skills, and yet you're able to find out from them, how did you build the soft skills? Which ones do you see are the most important? And how did you gain them? And then you're getting ideas, and pick the ones that make sense for you. You don't have to do what someone else did. If someone says, oh, well, I did this, you go, oh my gosh, I have no desire to do that. Don't do it. Find the thing that's really going to energize you and be a fit for you to build those skills, because there's no one single way to achieve them. Is that at all helpful?
Yeah, thank you so much. Really appreciate your suggestions. Yeah.
You're welcome.
Okay. Actually, by the way, I'm eager to join the InceptionU.
Fingers crossed.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Cody.
Thank
so
you.
much.
I don't know if I missed any hand. I did put a link in the chat. So it's a form just to register your membership with Immigrant Tech is Better. We find that the Meetup platform is not very engaging. We struggle with getting information across to people. So if you can just leave your information in that form, we will really appreciate it. And so if you wanted to say something, Margo?
I thought with what we talked about earlier, if you're interested, please let me know. Because what we could do is we could do a 1-hour build your communication skills session. If anyone's interested, let us know. If there's enough interest, then we'll get that set up for some time in the new year, where you can start building and understanding, well, how do I tend to communicate? What do I need? And then what might someone else need, so that I can connect with a wide variety of people and I can meet their needs. If you meet someone else's needs, they can meet yours, right? It's not being manipulative. It's not being, it's not being inauthentic. It's genuinely wanting to understand what someone else needs. And if you can meet those needs, you're going to make that human connection that we're hardwired for. So if that's at all of interest, I'm happy to run a session that we can do online together. I've got a free assessment that we can do using your smartphone, and we'd have a whole bunch of fun and understand what are some of those broader behavior and communication patterns that we tend to see. What are the ones I tend towards, and how do I connect and communicate with a wide variety of people?
Wow, thank you so much for offering to do that.
You're welcome.
So all we need to bring is our smartphone for that.
Yep.
Once you have that, we're good to go.
And what I might do is, no, we do it all in the 1-hour session. I won't have people download it ahead of time. Make sure you've got room on your phone, and we'll do it all together, and we'll understand that there are lots of different ways. And how do I influence people in a really positive way? There's lots of ways we can build it. These are muscles that can be built. And again, I truly believe in building them in a way that allows you to be you. Because if you try to be someone you're not, it's generally not going to go well anyway. So let's find a way of you building these communication skills your way that allows you to really bring your best self forward.
Awesome. Does anyone else have anything to say? We are well above beyond 8 o'clock. Oh no! I was gonna say, hope you don't mind, Margo. Oh. Michael is raising his hand. Is that okay, Michael?
Yes.
Okay, I'll meet yourself, Michael.
Yes. Hey guys. Great talk. Great meeting. I just hopped on here to actually give a biased feedback on what Margo's offering. I just completed the Applied Machine Learning Bootcamp, and part of the course had to do with classes on just overall what we've been talking about the whole session today. So please sign up. You're not like, if you do not sign up, you have no idea what you're missing out on. So please sign up.
Thanks.
It is very useful, but it's also very informative, and you would love to attend a class that Margo teaches any day of the week. So thank you, Margo, for all you
Thanks,
do.
Michael.
Really, guys, you should sign up.
You just made my week.
Thank you so much for that, Michael.
No problem.
I have no doubt what you said.
Awesome. Thank you.
Okay, so if there are no more questions, I'll leave the room open for people that want to stay back and hang out for a few more minutes. So thank you so much for coming out, Margo.
Thanks everyone for making the time and attending. It was an absolute pleasure. And reach out to me on LinkedIn. Please reach out. I'm happy to connect on LinkedIn. And if you have any other questions at any time, if I can't answer them, I'm lucky. I've got an amazing team of people around me who can we can make sure we connect you with any resources that would be helpful.
I did want to mention, I'm going to put Bumi in the spotlight right now. Like, if you're here and you're looking for a job, please connect to him. He's a hiring manager. He has lots of connection. So.
Awesome.
Have vacancies.
Yes, especially Sadkan, you especially. I think you should connect with Bumi.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll be anyway. So.
Yeah, if you can put your LinkedIn profile.
Let me get
profile
my
in the
LinkedIn up
chat. Yeah, if you can quickly grab your LinkedIn profile and just put it in there, that would be great. I think Tayo has a hand up. Is that from before? Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna add that I'm looking forward to that session that Margo was gonna organize, because I got some feedback from one of my colleagues. He told me that he was surprised that I'm new to Canada, that I did communicate well.
Fantastic.
But I don't know what I did. So I think I need to, if there's something I'm doing, I need to understand what it is. And I need it to be structured. I need to explore it more to, to do my job. Yeah. So he just said, you just do as if you've been here for like 6 years. You didn't give up the vibe that you're new, but I don't know what I did. So I need to actually know what's those things that I need to do or that I am doing and I need to do better so that it can be structured. So I'm looking forward to that session. Fantastic. And I'm sure I'll gain a lot. At least I've been told to sign up. So I'm going to sign up.
Well, and that's one thing with feedback too. And I just finished taking a course for myself where we talked about positive feedback. So if someone says, oh, you're a good communicator, what exactly am I doing so that I keep bringing it, right? And especially in the places, in the areas where we're particularly talented, it comes so easy to us. We often take it for granted and don't think of it as a skill. And so the more specific someone, so if you hear stuff like that, asking for some specifics, can you give me an example of what you saw that I did well so that I can make sure I keep bringing that? What was a situation? What did I do? And what was the impact that it had? So I make sure I keep bringing that. And that way you can also be finding out, well, what are those gifts that I've got? Instead of it's kind of trial and error and I don't know. And yeah. Awesome. I'm just grabbing all these LinkedIn profiles.
Yeah. Okay. I'll stop the recording now. Thank you for coming, everyone. Thanks for spending some of your evening with us.
Yeah.